Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Yasuo Kono. I'm basically based in Singapore for next to your country and covering the Japan equity. And I hope you enjoy the global AI era that's still ongoing. And Japan is not also the exception, but it is only the part of the Japan revival story. I will walk you through the why Japan continue evolving and reviving after the last 3 decades. Okay, so here is the agenda. You see the very simple and growth drivers. I picked the 3 growth drivers. It's getting more familiar to you, I believe. And after that, I talk about growth areas. So this is where we see the growth investment opportunity, followed by some capital market indicators. So starting with how Japan economy looks like. So Japan is still the manufacturing-oriented economy, as you probably familiar with. So this the slide basically is showing Japanese economic growth is often driven by manufacturing industry. Machinery order is a leading indicator for Japanese manufacturing industry as a whole, and it is now the sharply recovering. So we are now moving on to the next stage of the Japan long-term recovery. Manufacturing industry finally recovering, and that benefit is extending across the board. That's why Japan still continue to perform well even after the 3-year great performance. So starting with the growth driver number 1 for Takaichi's growth initiative. So she became the prime minister last October, and only 1 month after that, she proposed the 17th growth areas. I choose these 5 growth areas out of 17 that are all now happening on the ground, not only about agenda. I will talk about more about AI and semiconductor later on. So let's start with the defense industry. So this is also part of the growth agenda of the government. Japan eased the restriction on the military equipment exports first time after the 1967. So Japan basically restricted the export before, but now easing the restriction, and they made the first great deal that is with Australia. So they will export and produce the warship to Australia. And currently, the government is also negotiating with many other countries within the APAC region. So this investment theme also will be evolving in the future too. One more thing, the fusion energy in the middle. This is more advanced technology than nuclear power. So Japan still importing the many energy-related goods from the other countries. So they need to secure the energy themselves. Fusion energy is more efficient and more safer technology than nuclear power. So government is trying to develop the new technology. Now, more than 100 Japanese companies are joining this association of the new industry. So we will likely see more development in the future. So bottom line is, these are many areas are developing. Which sector will, which company and sector will benefit from that? I put the some key category. For Japan, key feature of Japanese manufacturing industry is it covers the broad area from the upstream to downstream. Japanese manufacturing is not only producing the final product, but you see the many components and material and machinery too. So many industry will be involved in this growth project, and we will likely see more growth opportunity from here. Okay, so next growth driver, that is still the wage growth acceleration. It is ongoing. Now, new development from this theme is household income growth is now above the inflation level. So it is the difference from the last 3 years. So that means Japanese households are not only accepting the price hike, but they also are looking to increase their quantity of consumption. So when they want to increase the quantity, more manufacturing companies also need to increase their production capability. So they need to invest and open a new factory. That also involves many supply chain, especially including the material and machinery companies. So this is also the area where we see the accelerating the growth across the manufacturing industry, driven by the wage growth acceleration. Okay, the third driver, it is very unique to Japanese equity market. Over the last 3 years, who has been leading buyer in Japan equity market? Historically, it was the foreign investor category. They often move in and out of the Japanese equity market, created some volatility. But why Japanese, the last 3-year performance was very consistent is actually Japanese companies are buying the stocks in the equity market. So it is very different from the other country. So why Japanese companies want to buy stocks? 2 reasons. One is increasing share buybacks. So under the pressure from the Tokyo Stock Exchange, listed company needed to improve the shareholder returns. So they increase the dividends, but also conducting the share buybacks. So other reason is Japanese companies are increasing the M&A activities for acquiring the other company in the market. This is also the part of the outcome driven by the pressure from the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Tokyo Stock Exchange putting the pressure on the company to increase the capital utilization, and then company now spending more money to acquire the other company. That is the other way to increase the growth of their earnings. Acquiring with the other company, next day you can increase your earnings. So this is the fast and efficient way to increase the earnings. So key part from this is this is not investment. They don't have to take the profit. That means they don't have to sell the stock in the future. They just buy their own share and acquire the other company. So this is why this activity has been consistently supporting the Japanese equity market, and but especially underpinning the valuation of the Tokyo Stock Exchange. So just checking how many companies have the net cash, abundant cash on their balance sheet. 58% of listed companies have net cash position, so more cash than debt. For example, United States, around 30% of the companies have net cash, but Japan, almost 60% have net cash. This explains why Japan lost 3 decades. Company did not use their cash, but just saved the money. And that money went into the banking system in form of the deposit, and banks just bought a lot of the JGB, government bonds. But now we see the reverse of the saving glut. More companies are now finally using their capital, and their capital is now flowing back to the fundamentals, not the JGB market. So this is the underlying driver for the long-term recovery of Japan. Good news, especially for this year, Prime Minister Takaichi also supporting this idea. Companies should use more cash to revitalize the Japan economy as a whole. And second one, the Financial Services Agency, this is the financial regulator in Japan. They are updating the corporate governance code. They will likely announce that this month. They will likely enhance the pressure on the listed company to use their capital. For all of these 3 authorities, they are now putting the pressure on the company for we should see more activity, growth potential, shareholder return improvement, all are coming from this pressure from the authorities. Okay, so let's moving on to the investment opportunity for growth areas. For firstly, we call this set of the opportunity three hike opportunity. It is still ongoing. Three hike includes the wage hike and price hike and interest rate hike. And we want to invest in beneficiary of these three hike. First one, the wage hike beneficiary is obviously the retail industry, the consumer industry, and we especially focusing on discretionary goods and services. Because when you have the better the wage growth, you want to spend more on the discretionary instead of the necessity. And it is already happening. One of the discretionary the goods operator is the electronic store. Their their revenue growth momentum has been improving. We still like this segment. And the other segment we like to invest is actually the department store. Japanese household behavior are now a little changing. So they need to accept the price hike, but they also want to increase the consumption, especially on the discretionary. What they are doing on the ground is they save the money for the necessity goods, but they want to buy some luxury goods. So some department stores are succeeding to capture this new segment, new behavior of the household. So we are now looking into this two discretionary type of the segment in Japan. Okay, the price hike beneficiary, price hike are happening everywhere in Japan too, but we especially focus on construction industry. Construction project prices have been sharply increasing over the last 3 years, and it's still ongoing. And why this is a very consistent structural the opportunity is behind this price hike, construction workers are decreasing because of the shortage of labor, especially the young Japanese workers. They don't want to join the construction industry. It is relatively a cheaper and tougher job compared to the others. They have more alternatives right now. So because of that, competition in this industry has been easing. And then many construction companies can increase the prices for their construction projects. So many construction companies are improving their profitability because of the price hike. So the late beneficiary is obviously the banking sector. Japan still have the many banks on the ground, including the top 3 nationwide financial institutions, that is Mitsubishi, Sumitomo, Mizuho, etc., as you are familiar with. And Bank of Japan will likely continue their interest rate hikes over the next 1 to 2 years at least. We still like this sector because their profitability are also improving, and we likely see the next rate hike from the Bank of Japan over the next 12 months at the latest. So these are the 3 hike opportunity, and I want to also introduce the new growth opportunity. So that is Takaichi's growth initiative. So I talk about the 17th growth area, including the defense, nuclear power, etc. And I pick the semiconductor industry as an example. So what government is now trying to do, on the left, it shows the photo of the picture of the supply chain in Japan. Japan used to be good at producing the semiconductor chips in the past, but long time ago. And in the meantime, design part is now dominated by NVIDIA. Production part is led by TSMC. Japan have no longer have the strong footprint in these areas. However, Japan is still good at other areas, what is equipment and material parts. Many Japanese companies have still the global top market share in these segments. And with that, government is now trying to support center line, design, and production. And many Japanese companies will benefit from that revival of the entire Japanese semiconductor supply chain. That is already happening on the ground. On the right map, I just listed the new semiconductor factory in Japan. I picked one example, Lapidus on the top, the Hokkaido. This is the photo of all Japan semiconductor company. 32 large-scale Japanese companies are now the shareholder of the Lapidus, and including the SoftBank, Sony, Toyota, Honda, etc. For all the familiar names, and they are supporting the Lapidus. And Lapidus already succeeded producing the 2 nano chip. It's the most advanced chip. And they also already found first client to use their chip, that is the Canadian AI company. And second client, Fujitsu, Japanese company. They will use even the 1.4 nano chip produced by Lapidus. For Lapidus, we will likely move on to the mass production phase next year, and that is the time when more material and equipment will be needed. So this area, we will likely see more development and continue to see the growth opportunity over the long term. Okay, so I also wanted to show what kind of the Japanese company have the strong footprint in equipment, material, machinery segment in this supply chain of the semiconductor. Japan is especially good at back-end process. So back-end is through the supply chain, it will be they will be joining to testing, checking, etc. And this part is now becoming more crucial because now for the AI chip to produce, how to stack the chip is more important instead of how to make the chip smaller and smaller. Back-end process played a crucial role how to stack the chip. So half of these companies have the global top market share in their respective industry. And even in the front-end process part, 1/3 of these Japanese companies have global top market share. So again, once center line, design, production part is revitalized, many Japanese companies will benefit from that trend. And they also having a great benefit from the global AI development as well. So lastly, checking the valuation. So currently, the valuation is slightly ticking up because after the 3-year great performance. However, this valuation is still lower than the average 2003 to 2007. For 2003 to 2007 is when Japan had some cyclical growth. And 2010 to 2022, this is almost no growth for Japan. For now, we are seeing the structural growth, not the cyclical, but structural. After the 3 lost decades, valuation should be higher than the past. That is the reason why we still are constructive on the Japanese equity market, because fundamentals is now growing and valuation still have some upside from this level. Okay, so this concludes my presentation, and I hope you got some the key part of why Japan is now really recovering and why it is sustainable. And most important part to understand why Japan to invest. Japan had a great year, but it is still at the early stage of the long-term long-term revival because Japan lost 3 decades. Finally, Japanese companies started to use their cash more effectively, and that is now flowing back to the fundamentals, but it is still early stage, so we will likely see more acceleration of the growth toward the true revival. Thank you for listening, and I hope I'm handing over to the next stage. Thank you very much.